I'm joined by the one and only Professor Zhang Weiwei. I'm sure many of you already know him. He's the Professor of International Relations, the Dean of China Institute at Fudan University. Professor Zhang, big fan of your work. And I think a lot of scholars or people who are interested in China in other countries, they have so many questions about China's system, about China's culture.
No problem, come on.
I think we will try to help them to understand a little bit. For example, because the recent China's rise and China's success in many aspects, a lot of people, particularly in Western countries, start to wonder why the so-called very perfect Western democracy is facing more and more internal struggles. But China, the system has been put on so many labels and being demonized, can actually get things done and make so much progress in the past few decades. What's the advantages of China's system compared to Western democracy?
I think the Western society or Western mainstream media or even many academics made a kind of mistake because they somehow believe in this, I think, very superficial paradigm. It's called the democracy or autocracy. If it's not Western-style democracy, then it's autocracy. I said a long time ago, I traveled around the world to over 100 countries. I said if the society, the global, whatever politics has to be divided into two categories, it must be good governance or bad governance. And good governance can take the form of Western political system, can take form of other political systems. Chinese one is a good example. Same with bad governance. Western system, I can give you 100 examples. Failures of Western political system. Same non-Western system can be a failure. So I think we focus on good governance. Then what we can get things done is part of this good governance. Very important. If you look at the Europe, for instance, Europe was the first, if I'm not wrong, the earliest to advocate a Green Deal, energy transition to renewables. How many years have passed? What's the result? But China has achieved that. We have made this transition. We now produce 60-70% of the world's renewable energy, equipment, and EV vehicles. Done. China the only major country that achieved these objectives. What about European proposal, idea, this deal agreement? No longer much there. And same with Germany, which produced this very impressive plans called the Industry 4.0 in the year 2013. And China was deeply impressed by that proposal and that plan, and China produced its own plan called the Made in China 2025 and drew a lot of elements from the German plan. Of course, it's much bigger than the German plan. 10 years have passed. What about German plan? It's already in tatters. But Chinese plan already successful, completed, more or less. Behind this, what I call the Chinese model. For instance, for the Green Deal, for the energy transition, we made a number of 5-year plans. For instance, EV vehicles, EV cars, 4 5-year plans, 20 years. Every 4 5-year plan, every 5-year plan, we will examine to what extent it's successful, where it is successful, where it's not successful, then we make readjustments. Not only for every 5 years, but for every year. In the spring, we have 2 sessions, People's Congress, People's Consultative Conference. And then at the end of the year, usually late November, early December, we have an economic conference of the Party Central Committee, which focus on examination of the annual plan and how is it being performed, how far we should continue, how far we should improve, how far we should correct our mistakes, whatever. So already very sophisticated, very institutionalized Chinese-style democracy, what we call the consultative democracy. And for each 5-year plan, it involves hundreds, thousands of consultations at all levels of Chinese society and state structure. India produce a plan that is workable, that can be implemented, very down to us. So whenever we have a plan, we mean it. It has to be implemented. And each year in the 2 sessions, Chinese Premier will be responsive to the request from the floor. We made a plan last year. Say we made 25 commitments, targets, objectives. Which one we have fulfilled? Which one 100%? Which one 70%? Which one 80%? One by one. That's called accountable responsive government. So it's really more democratic than the Western political system, which is more about, make public statement, a campaign statement. And I think we should be modest enough to learn from Chinese model. We have so much whatever good experience to share with them.
So what you just mentioned, I think also echoed by people from different continents that I've talked to. For example, last month we had the FOCAC meeting, and many African experts told me the same thing. I was like, well, I asked them, why you pay attention to FOCAC? It's like, when China's leaders says they want to do something,
They mean
they mean it. Yeah. And the FOCAC has been so consistent for the past few decades, and they know what to expect. They know China is committed to this. Like you mentioned, the electric vehicles. Yeah. Many leaders, maybe some leading Western companies, 20 years ago, they were laughing at China's models, China's companies, they're going nowhere at the EVs. Yeah. But look at now, the models they used to laugh at now has been the most leading competitors in the world. So when China says something, it's very consistent. The leaders, even though change, but the policies don't change. They're committed to do that. Yeah. So same thing with the poverty alleviation. Yeah. So I think it caused a lot of people outside China start to wonder, how is that possible for one government to be so consistent in the past 100 years? And
I advance this concept of civilizational state because China is in a way unique because China was first unified in 221 BC, and since then, in most time, China was a unified country and governed by a unified ruling entity, or in today's words, one-party system. We had that, we're familiar with that. But behind this so-called unified ruling entity was, and today is, a structure I call the meritocracy. China invented the examination system for public servants, Keji system. And now it has been adapted into today's, it's very modern now, it's called I call this selection plus election, selection first. If you look at the profiles of the Chinese top leadership, basically at least twice as number one of Chinese province. Literally, they've governed over 100 million people before they come to their current positions. So I have no doubt whatsoever the Chinese top echelon leaders is among the most competent, most experienced in the world today. And then you have a unified ruling entity symbolized by Chinese Communist Party. I call it Holistic Interest Party, which is again a tradition from China's long history, but it's modernized. That's why if you are a holistic interest party, the Western political system is made up of partial interest or partisan interest parties. So you cannot expect the UK's Labour Party to make a plan and the Conservative Party will continue it. No, they will scrap it and change it. But China is one party. This is working. But it's not Western-style political partisan interest party. It's a holistic interest party. And within party, you have intra-party democracy. We debate, we discuss many issues. I told many American journalists, I said, this transition from Cultural Revolution to reform and opening up, the scale of change is much greater than many of your changes pursued by, advocated by the Republican or Democrats. So these changes have happened, taken place within China, within the party, and transition is made. So this is why we can continue with this plan. And so we can plan for next 5 years, next 10 years, and next generation. There's a huge advantage of Chinese model and Chinese system.
Yeah, for example, poverty alleviation is something so huge that cannot be done just within 4 years, 5 years, or one leader. It has been carried on by generations of people, experts dedicated to solve this issue, and that's where
this has also posed a really very serious question mark, say, for the American, British, Western so-called democracy. Because that system is, say, about election. It's more or less driven by the voters. And if it's 51%, a winner takes all. In the first place, in the case of China, with a population of 1.4 billion, if it's winners takes all, 51% will win. The country will break up. Chinese will not accept that, Size matters. The second thing is you have to be responsible for generations to come, for those who have not yet been born. next generation. So these are not reflected in the Western political system. So that system, as I told Professor Fukuyama, has to be fixed, has to be reformed thoroughly, substantially. Otherwise, you cannot compete. You cannot cope with the challenge from the 21st century.
Yeah. I think in recent 5 to 10 years, we saw this rising anti-China propaganda on Western mainstream media. And together with the anti-China propaganda, we also saw sanctions on China's enterprises, blacklisting China's top, for example, AI company, or adding tariffs on China's EVs, all kinds of efforts trying to crack down China's rise. I'm wondering from your point of view, what China has done that touches the most sensitive nerves of some governments?
The main problem with the United States, it is in the status of, I think, how should I put it? In China, we say 心乱. Literal translation is chaotic mind. They don't know how to deal with China, how to cope with China. They don't have a real strategy. If we look at their plans, whatever, we know it will not work. From day one, when trade war imposed by the United States, it will be failure, 100% failure. From day one of tech war against China, I said it will fail completely because when they don't have the overall strategy, and which means they are really understanding China as it is. The success of Chinese model is based on the philosophy which was advocated by both Chairman Mao and Chairman Deng Xiaoping, called seeking truth from facts. When we look at the United States, when we look at European Union, we look at as it is, its strengths, its weakness, its good points, weak points. So we deal with that on their own merits. We don't have this European-American ideological frenzy. We are the bestest. You must be converted like us. This is very stupid. An old civilization, 5,000 years longer. People have to have a certain modesty dealing with a big civilization. So we look at someone like very childish. You look at their failure of their prediction about China one after another. From the collapse of China, every 3 or 5 years, another collapse of China, another collapse of China. Very stupid, very short-sighted. Short-termism is known to all, is a typical feature of Western political system. Our system is much more long-termism. In strategic terms, long-termism always win out. Furthermore, we were in France not long ago, and we were discussing with a French think tank. You mentioned this tariff on EV vehicles. I said, look out. I just tell you once, in the end you will regret. Why? Because today's EV vehicles is another type of technology. This competition is more or less like, in the past, we all remember about the film. It's the competition between Fuji or Kodak. In the end, they are both replaced by digital technology. So this EV vehicle is digital technology. It's intelligent AI, whatever, applied. It's already very different from traditional cars. So if you refuse new type of technologies, which is one-dimensional high, if not two, then you will lose this opportunity. If you look at Chinese Communist Party, in its official document says one principle is we represent the most advanced productivity or most advanced productive force, which means wherever there's new technology, first-rate technology, we should embrace it, then try to deal with whatever challenges they impose on the way we apply this technology, develop this technology. So if you look at why Germany Industrial 4.0 failed, one major thing is they listened to the Americans. They stopped their cooperation with Huawei, with Ali Cloud. These are the best in the world in the telecommunication, in cloud business. If you cut yourself with the best technologies, you lose. The same with other things. I could give many other examples.
Yeah. My last question is, what's your vision for the possible outcomes of this geopolitical conflicts? who will win? Who will lose?
The main problem is the United States. If they can change their mindset, it will be easy to have. It will be great for both China and the United States, for the whole world. Some in the United States prefer to have a kind of new Cold War. The Cold War is based on this stupid concept of mutually assured destruction, MAD. I put forward a long time ago, I said, for China and the United States, we should embrace mutually assured prosperity, MAP. MAP is much better than MAD. And German philosopher Immanuel Kant had a statement, with visions. He said, in the end, people should all embrace peace, but there are only two approaches. One is through wars, destruction, death, and then in the end you reach peace. The other is through wisdom, through international law, etc. We should choose the second approach. Yeah. Then we can, in the end, the United States will realize that.
When they drop the mindset of mutually assured destruction.
MAP to MAP.
Yeah. Then we all win from these geopolitical tensions. Right? Thank you so much, Professor Zhang. Thank you so much.